class. So this is the new lesson of lesson 4-4. So this is going to be covering, lesson 4-4 is using corresponding parts of congruent triangles. Before we begin the lesson, we've been learning about congruent triangles lately. And this time we're going to be learning about what happens when there's a congruent triangles and what are the corresponding parts going to be telling us. Okay. So the first example in this lesson is first we're going to practice just listing down the corresponding parts. We're not going to state anything about the triangles. We're just going to state which parts are corresponding to each other. Okay. We're just practicing our observation skills. So first thing off is we're going to talk about triangle number 1 here. And we're going to compare the triangle number 2. Here we're going to determine what segment is segment AA corresponding to. Okay? So the segment we're talking about is this segment here. Okay. So this segment is corresponding to a segment on the right. Here you can see that it's a long leg. So here in this second triangle, which is the long leg as well, here you can tell that's going to be segment BE. So segment BE is the corresponding segment. Just practice this a little bit. And then next is we're going to do BC, right? BC is going to be segment BC. It's going to be corresponding to its segment on the second triangle. Here it is a short leg on the first triangle. Here EF looks like the second, the shortest leg in the second triangle, right? The segment EF. BC is corresponding to EF. Okay. The next one is AC. Is the diagonal line, or the longest line known in the triangle. Segment AC is corresponding to segment. Here's the last one here. So I'm just going to choose segment EF. Okay, so they are corresponding to each other. Okay. So that's how we did segments. Now we're going to be focusing on angles. So here we're talking about angle A. Here. So for angle A, here angle A is corresponding to which angle? Is it angle B, E, or F? Here you can see that it's in the top part of the triangle. Here, angle D is also at the top part of the triangle. So you know that angle D is corresponding to angle A. Next one is angle B. So for angle B here, angle B is corresponding to which angle here? Here, it's angle E because it's angle B is a lot larger than angle D and angle F. And angle B looks is the same, look like the same measurement as angle B. So angle B is corresponding to angle E. The last corresponding angle here is angle C. And here, last one here is angle C and angle F. Notice that angle C doesn't really look like that's the same measurement as angle D because C is a lot wider than angle D, right? And we already know that angle D is corresponding to angle A. Angle C is not as wide as angle E, but it looks like estimated the same as angle E. Or angle F, sorry. Angle F. Okay, so this is just a small practice for just observing corresponding parts. We haven't really focused on congruent triangles just yet, but we're just practicing on observing. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide here. This is the theorem that we're going to be working on. This lesson is lesson 4-4 is using corresponding parts of congruent triangles. Here, this theorem that's given in this part of the lesson is saying that the theorem is saying that corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Let's focus on the term here first. First here, it's saying that if there are congruent triangles, this is talking about this phrasing. Now we're going to work on the theorem, right? The page before this was something about corresponding parts, which is this. Corresponding parts are congruent. But we notice here in this, if we go back again, we never said none of these are congruent, right? We only said that they are corresponding to each other, but we never stated congruency. So here this is a different theorem. Here it's saying that if there are congruent triangles, then we can conclude that the corresponding parts are congruent. Okay. So here is your if part of this statement is if you have congruent triangles, then you can say that corresponding parts are congruent. Okay. So corresponding parts are only congruent if there's a statement that states that the triangles are congruent. Okay. If there are triangles congruent triangles, then the corresponding parts are congruent. Let's just use an example here. Here, example number 2. Here it says it's given. In every problem we're given, you're always going to be looking at the given, right? The given here is triangle EFG. It's going to be congruent to triangles RTP. Okay. So now you know that we have congruent triangles, right? Now we can say that then the corresponding parts are going to be congruent. So here, let's just practice this again. Angle E, start here. Angle E, here. Put a little point there. Angle E is going to be congruent to, or is corresponding to angle R. Right? So I know that they are corresponding parts, and I know that they're congruent. Why? Because here, given that the triangles are, if the triangles are congruent, then, which is given here, then you know that corresponding parts of angle E and R are both congruent, because it's given that the triangles are congruent. Then you know that all corresponding parts are going to be congruent as well. Next one, here is angle F. Here, angle F is going to be congruent to which corresponding parts here is B or T. Angle F looks wider than angle B, but it looks somewhat the same as angle T. So you know that they're somewhat corresponding, and it gives me an information that since there's congruent triangles, then I know that the corresponding parts are also congruent. Angle F will be congruent to angle T. Next one, here is angle G. Angle G is going to be congruent to angle B. This is the last angle here given. Angle G is congruent to angle B. Next one, here we're going to redo segments. Segments EG here. Segment EG here looks like it's part of the diagonal line, which is the longer. It's not the long leg or the short leg. So here I'm not going to be focusing on the corresponding part of the short leg or the long leg. This is the longest leg here. It's the diagonal line. So you know that EG is corresponding to segment RB. Let me clear that out first. Segment RB. Okay. Now segment FG here is going to be congruent to or corresponding to the short leg of this triangle, like a triangle is, which is TB. EF here is a long leg, will be corresponding to the other long leg in triangle number 2, which is RT. You know that they are also congruent. Notice the difference first before we continue. Notice the difference between the example here on the left and the one on the right. Okay. Here on the left and on the right here, it's given that both the triangles are congruent. So I can state that all these corresponding parts are going to be congruent. Compared to the one on the right here, there's no given that the triangles are congruent. So I'm not stating that they are congruent. I'm just stating that they are corresponding. Very different. Okay. So now here, reasoning is for this one, it's going to be Whenever you provide a reasoning here, the reasoning for this is going to be called the corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Very wordy, yes, very wordy. You don't want to, if you don't want to write all that, you can just use the abbreviation, which is C P C T C. One thing about this is I don't want you to be stating that this as an abbreviation of CPCTC. Every time you write down this abbreviation, you're you're phrasing the actual theorem, which is corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Again, don't call it CPCTC, call it corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay. Moving on to the next one is we have one more example or two more examples here. Here's just example number 3. And we're just going to go through this real quick. Here, once again, example number 3 is given that triangle RUT. RUT is talking about this triangle here on the left. Okay. Triangle RUT, and it's going to be congruent to this triangle on the right, which is triangle QUT. Right? QUT. So next is we're going to answer this question since we know that both triangles are congruent to each other. Okay, so now hold on, let me pull up the answer. I didn't really pull up the examples here. Yeah. So here, now this is the complete diagram here. So now here, the question number 1 asking is what angle is congruent to angle RUT? Once again, RUT is talking about angle T here, and angle T with the rays of R and the ray of U. So the angle we're talking about is this angle here. Okay. So what angle is congruent to angle T or RTU, right? RTU. What angle is congruent to RTU? Here the answer is going to be angle U. Okay, but you have to be specific, right? Angle U, but with the rays of T and the ray of Q. So talking about angle U, but with the rays of T and Q. Or you can rename this as our angle TUQ. Okay. So next one here is, since I know that they're congruent, the next question, the second question this is going to ask us is, do you know that RTU and QUT or TUQ is congruent? What is the value of angle measurements? Angle M means measurement. What is the measurement angle of TUQ? Talking about this angle here. So the value for this angle is going to be 36. Why is it 36? Because they are corresponding. Yes. The triangle on the left, this is on the top part of the triangle. It's the most narrow, least, where it's a narrow angle compared to the rest, the other 3. And we'll use the narrow angle compared to the other 2 angles. Okay. So now, and you're given the fact that since both triangles RUT and triangles QUT are both congruent, and angle RUT is congruent to TUQ because of the corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent, then you know that the value of angle TU cubed is equals to 36 as well. Okay. And the last two examples I'm going to give out is what angle is congruent to segment RU. Segment RU is going to be congruent to the segment of TQ on the triangle on the right. And the last one is UT. UT is going to be congruent to UT of RUT is going to be congruent to what segment on the right. Here, they both share the same segment of UT. Then you conclude that the segment of UT on triangle number 1, the segment of UT on triangle number 2 are both congruent to itself, right? Because they are sharing the same side. Okay. That is the next example, and we'll do the last example, which is going to be example number 4. Here it's asking us, the question is, what angle is angle E congruent to? Right? Here, angle E will be congruent to, you're going to say angle N. Yes. Angle N is going to be incorrect. Why is it incorrect? Because compared to the other example here it's given that both triangles are congruent. Right? Here, when you're looking at B, there is no given. So this is a question, this is a trick question. This is an observation question, right? You have to be careful of how you're doing your work. Okay? Since you know that there's no given and you don't have proof that both triangles are congruent, then you cannot prove that angle E and angle N are both congruent. This is false, right? They're not congruent. Incorrect. Why is this incorrect? Because, once again, compared to the other question, right, that both triangles are congruent. Here, it's incorrect. Okay. Here you put no angles are congruent because no triangles are congruent. And that's how you do these questions. Okay, that is the lesson for lesson 4-4. I hope it is helpful, and that is it.